Hello there. So, if you're someone who is looking to build your personal brand and for that you want to hire a professional YouTube team or video content team in general, well, in this video, I'll go over everything there is that you have to know in order to hire a top 1% team. How to identify the best talent. So, basically, I'll be going over team structures from hiring sources to onboarding, these people and also training them, putting systems in place so that it functions effectively. So after watching this, you will probably save a lot of trial and error and a lot of money and also time, because this is what I've learned over the last 3 years. That's all I've been doing, is hiring video editors, thumbnail designers, content strategists, channel managers, script writers, all the YouTube talents, and probably worked with over 40 creative talents. And all the things that I've learned is what I'm going to be laying it down for you in this video. So that is this is going to be coming in from experience. So right now we have a team of about 15 people, concrete skill sets, working with around the same number of clients, 15 clients. So everything we have in place and what I've learned over the years, what doesn't work, what works, it's like a filtered knowledge for you. This is how this video is going to be structured. It's going to be divided into 3 parts. The first part, I'm going to go over the team structure, what are the different skill sets you would need, where to place them, and the second part is all about how to find these talents, how to screen them, how to qualify, then onboard. Once you do that, also I'm quickly cover, this is not going to be very in-depth, but quickly cover how to measure their success, but before that, what systems you can put in place to run this effectively, and also what tools that you can use to make your life a lot easier. So that is going to be the focus of this video. I think let's get started with the team structure. So before I dive into that, one thing that also you can get access to is everything that I'm going to go through in this video is like, it's also going to include the job descriptions you can use, the questionnaires, forms. Pretty much, this is going to save you a lot of time. You can just go through these job description, optimize for your organization, for your requirements. And then this covers all the essentials that people need to qualify if you want to build a top 1% team. So everything is here laid out. You can get access to this through the link in the description, but I'll go through each of them as I cover this chart. So let's get started with team structure. Whenever you're thinking about building a content team, what you need to consider is the volume of content you would be doing and also the budget you have associated. So typically when you get started, if you don't have plans on like pumping out crazy volume, or if your budget is limited, of course you necessarily do not have to get started with this entire team structure. It can be content strategists or script writers, can be later hires, but I'm also going to go through the order of hire you can do in case if you don't want to onboard everyone at once. But if you want to go step by step, or if you're you want to scale it as you get ROI from your content, if you're more concerned with the budget. So everything I'm going to go through like with the order of hire in short. But talking about team structure, the first player in this structure is always going to be content strategy. So this is the person who is going to be responsible to look at trends in your industry, to identify opportunities, to analysis of your competitors. So basically someone who put together a list of ideas, someone who put together a plan or strategy that you can follow with a specific goal in mind, right? So of course, whenever you plan on creating a video, always have a goal behind what you want to do. So that is something that a content strategist does. And also another thing is, you do not necessarily have to hire all of these talents separately, especially when you're just getting started. What I found out works best is, of course, if you find someone who says they can do all of these themselves, a single person, then that's a big red flag. But what I found to be true is, usually with creative talents, they sometimes have complementary skills, or it's better to find someone who has a complementary skill. For example, right now the current strategist that we have on board, he is also a script writer. So he's basically researching ideas, he's coming out with content plan and presents it to the client. They go through it and if they pick the topics, and based on that he creates the scripts himself. So that is something we have complementary that he can fulfill. So that is something I love to do, is find someone who has complementary skills, so that I cut the number of people that needs to be placed by half. Like instead of hiring 5 people, 5 different roles, 3 people can do the job. So of course, make sure they're good at both of these skills. So something should not suffer. But usually I found that if you find good people, they're good at something else as well. So it can be true for video editors as well. Your video editor can also be your thumbnail designer. and channel managers. So right now, that is also something is managed by our strategists. So they do it. It's easy to train how to post, add tags, description, test with title stuff. Since we have separate operations manager, so that's something to keep in mind. He's always look for complementary skills. But coming back to this structure, of course, you have the strategist who's going to be in the forefront, and scriptwriter is someone who is going to be writing content for you. Of course, this depends on your situation. If you're someone who is a natural talker, if you don't need scripts, some people find it harder to talk based on scripts. So that is something you can figure out. You wouldn't necessarily need this. Although if this is something you can test with down the line, how videos perform with script, with the professional scriptwriter and without them. So if there's no major difference, that's something you can decide. But always something that you need is video editor, because the amount of time it takes to edit video is usually higher than what it takes to plan script and record the video. So editor is a must, and a designer for thumbnails, and channel manager is someone who does SEO, write description, post the videos for you, finds the best time, engages with your audience. And this is something you can either do it yourself in the initial stage, or if you don't want, of course, train someone to do it within this team. Because usually, I found, within our team there are editors who are good at writing tags, description, title. But I'm also going to get to what the nature of employments you can have with these people, if it's going to be full-time, part-time, so that you can be cost efficient. So you can also have multiple people working without incurring a huge amount of cost. But that is something you can think about. So 5 main skill sets that you need is strategist, scriptwriter, again optional, video editor, designers must. That is probably those are the 2 first hires you need to do, and then channel manager to manage everything. Now, if you are doing content at a small scale, you can train channel manager or content strategists to go through what editors are doing, manage the workflow, basically to orchestrate everything for you. That's where operations manager comes in. But in the initial stage, you wouldn't need it unless you have huge volume going out, or you're working with multiple partners, stuff like that. If you have, again, a huge volume, that's when operations manager is necessary. So now we do have operation manager who is responsible for quality checking, who is responsible for orchestrating everything between these skill sets, who is also responsible for communication with clients. But that is something that you can hire as and when the need comes up. It is not a must. So like I said, you can train either your channel manager if he has more free time left. That is something you can do, is orchestrate between all these, manage the workflow, review. If they are good at catching errors, doing quality check, that's something you can train as well. They can manage, or review stuff done by video editors or designers, or the channel, or the content strategist can do it. Again, like I said, content strategist and channel manager can be a complementary skill. That's something you need to figure out as you talk to people. So that is the team structure. One more thing I didn't talk about is videographer. So if you're someone who wants to go full professional on the quality of the videos, the recording, if you want to record a bunch of b-rolls, if it's not just single footage talk head, you can hire a videographer depending on your budget. That makes a lot easier. Of course, your content would look a lot more professional. It makes it a lot more easier for you to record at the best settings possible, with get the best raw footage that your editors can work with. But that is something not a lot of our clients are doing right now. They simply have a decent setup with a camera, or their phone with good lighting. Lighting is what matters the most. If you have that, then pretty much this is going to be covered. Otherwise, you can hire someone on a freelance basis. So that is on the team structure, essentially. Pretty much, any way you arrange it, this is what it would come down to. These are the skill sets you would need. Now, going over the order of hire. Let's say you don't want to get started with hiring all of these talents at once. So editors is definitely the number one, skill set you need to get in the early stage if you want to, of course, make your videos look professional, and most importantly, save a lot of time. Editing takes hefty amount of time. So I like to hire editors based on freelance basis or paper project basis. Salary is something you can consider. Of course, if you have a consistent project coming in, that is when you can consider salary. That might be more cost saving. But when you get started in the beginning, if you don't have a lot of volume, of course, always keep it paper project basis, freelance basis. That's what most editors also prefer working, and you'll also get great quality of work done for a reasonable price. And designers in the early stage, you don't have to have them on full time. What you can do is, of course, I have this laid down here, so you can hire them on a freelance basis. Again, you can, if the content volume is low, you can just hire them off of Fiverr, Upwork, or on a paper project basis. That's going to be very cost effective as well. But find a couple of guys who are like good at what they do. You can keep their contacts, and of course they can build a good relationship with them. But yeah, editors and designers are the top hire. You must have well edited videos for retention and good thumbnails for CTR. And scriptwriter is something like secondary. You can hire if you struggle to record content, if you go blank as you talk, or if you want more to expand on like more researched content, like more informative content, in-depth content. So scriptwriters can be useful then. So second, that is an hire. But if you're natural and if you're good at talking, presenting, that is something can be optional for you. So third, once you have these talents, and optionally if you're going with scriptwriter or not, third talent you want is strategist. So at certain level, the amount of preparation, or like the time you put into preparation, is what is going to determine the results you can get with content. So the better you prepare, the better you have planned everything out with the content, the better results you're going to get. So highly suggest hiring a strategist, someone who can be there researching good trends, good quality topics, keywords, and what your competitors are doing. So that is going to really help you with to level up that performance after a certain point. And of course, managers. Once you are getting engagement, you have built a community where people are commenting, engaging, that you need someone to actively respond to, or sort of essentially manage posting and do SEO, split test. So that's the next talent you would want to hire. So editors, designers can always be on a freelance basis. Scriptwriters can also be on a freelance basis or like paper project basis. Strategists is sometime, like usually I feel like they're more like full-time people, or you can also hire them based on part-time. Like of course if they have another job, that can also be done, but usually I feel like they're more involved and engaged with you if you're someone who is recording the content. And finally, managers, they can also be, usually right now we have full-time, but they can also be part-time. They can also be on a contract basis, but usually I don't think like a freelance basis works effectively, since they would be required to actively engage with the channel. So that is the order of hire I would go if I'm not hiring everyone at once. Yeah, so we are done with like part 1. So moving on to part 2, from hiring sources to onboarding. What's the process I take? Before I go over the hiring sources, this is the hiring process we follow at our agency right now, and it's pretty simple, straightforward. But yeah, we have the job post. This is from the hiring source. We have applicants or inputs coming in from that, and once we have that, I will go over like where to collect them, how to organize, how to screen. But once we have these applicants, you screen them, look for qualifiers, and then ask for a demo. Always, like with creative talent, I cannot stress this enough, is like always look for demo, even if their portfolio looks amazing. Especially I'm talking about video editors, thumbnail designers, and script writers for demo. So that is something you want to ensure. The reason behind this is you might have different set of requirements from what they have with their portfolio, or sometimes you simply want to verify that what they have in their portfolio is what they can do. The way you do that is by having a demo in place where they need to submit a 1-minute sample of their work. So this can be paid or free, it depends. That is something you definitely want to have, and based on that you can have interview email sent out, and then based on the interviews you can hire the best candidates. So that's the typical hiring process. Again, for everything you would need, like the questions with the questionnaire, like the job post for each of these talents, what are the requirements, skills, the process, everything is laid out here. You can simply go through, copy paste, optimize it for your requirements, for your space. This makes it everything easy. So okay, now coming to hiring sources. Now there are 3 different sources where you can hire editors from, or where they typically hang out. The first one is freelance marketplaces, sites like Upwork, Fiverr, ytjobs.co. There are job boards. This is more for someone who is looking full-time, like more traditional jobs, like we have onlinejobs.ph, Indeed, LinkedIn, and also community based. So this is where they are not necessarily looking for a position, but that's where they are there. So for example, Facebook groups with editors, Twitter, you can actually hire people from doing Twitter job posts. I'll get to that in short. But Behance. So I've pretty much tested with all of them. And what I found works best is sources where people come to you rather than having to reach out to them. That is a big differentiator. And for example, like with Facebook groups, of course, you can post a job or you can reach out to people, members of that group. And on Twitter, the plan there is you post a job looking for editors, you use the right hashtags, and that post, there are a lot of editors on Twitter, so you can find really good editors there. But it's going to be like very neutral conversation there. And then Behance is where you reach out to people. It works great. You can find like really great talents easily, but you have to reach out to them. On Upwork, Fiverr, similar case, you have to reach out to these people. They have the upper hand there, right? They have the control over the conversation. But if you post jobs on ytjobs.co or LinkedIn Jobs, that's my favorite sources. So I've tested with all of them. I found LinkedIn, that's number one, is what I've been using for the longest time to post jobs. I've got a like crazy amount of applicants through this. Like as you can see, this is an example of actually let me go through the job post. So this is an example of a job post that I do on LinkedIn. I spent probably about like $100, get almost 2,000 apply clicks. Usually half of those people really apply. So the way they apply is they have this questionnaire that they need to fill out where I collect details, their portfolio, job experiences, and yeah, out of 1,000 people, 1,000 is like the minimum I look for. Like with LinkedIn, that's the volume it takes because there are a lot of unqualified people I usually find. This is what I've been using for the longest time, LinkedIn, right? So once they fill out the form, their details are collected here, then I go and screen. But what I found with LinkedIn is, yeah, it's a very tedious process. You get a lot of applicants, you get a big volume, but it's very traditional, and it's not optimized for YouTube. So when you find people who are video editors, they can be someone who edits wedding videos, or someone who is like not really very aware of social media tactics. So as replacement of that, what I found works better, my recent most favorite source is ytjobs.co. So it's pretty similar in terms of how you need to post the jobs, how you collect applicants, but it's specifically for YouTube creatives, right? So most people there optimize their edits for YouTube or social media platforms. So you get really qualified people there, probably at a better rate and faster. So this is what I've been, liking so far, or like most recently. And out of all, if I had to pick out of all of these sources, again, you can try all of them depending on your requirements, but look for the platforms where people come to you rather than you having to go to them. And secondly, look for platforms that specifically, serve the talents that you want in your niche. Yeah, those are two of my suggestions. So once you have the hiring source planned out, again, you can go through the job description or post you can make to reach these people and, set expectations. And once they see that, what you need to have is a form like this that they can fill out, where you can collect applications. So if I go back to the hiring process, yeah, you have the job post, you collect the applications, and this form feeds this sheet. All the inputs are going to be recorded here, and at first it's going to be all mixed up. So what you can see, the differentiation in colors here, green are the ones that are qualified and red are the ones that are unqualified. So I usually do this qualification in the screening stage. So it takes some time, but I have an HR who is managing this. But the main thing I've usually found, previously I had a lot of questions that I was asking, but I cut it down and I just look at their portfolio, especially if it's editors, designers. I just look at the portfolio, their drive folder, or like past videos they have edited, because if that is good, then I proceed to read the answers. That is what I found. Smart, make sure their work is good enough before reading anything else. So that's how I do screening, is if the work is good, if the answers are good, they are marked green, and all others are dismissed. And once I have this screened list, then what I do is send an email for a free demo, right? So again, it can be paid, it can be free, depending on how much volume you have and how much leverage do you have. I ask for a free demo. If it's a video editor, it's going to be 1 minute clip. The way I do it is provide raw footage they can edit. It's going to be something specific that you want to provide them. So you provide them the raw footage, you provide an example for a style that you want them to do edits as, and then you have a form again where they can submit these demos, right? So similarly to this form, they have simply a form where they fill out their name, email, and then the sample that they did. And once you have that, you collect it, you review it. This is again especially true for editors, designers, and script writers. And for strategists and managers, I simply skip this step. or this stage, right? So that's why I marked it in a different color. So for them, it's the other processes. So if they are qualified like enough, I'm probably more strict on what are the qualifiers if they do not have the demo. But once I have like list of maybe 10-20 people that I think are good enough for these managers and strategist role, I just send them a link to book an interview with a Calendly scheduler. Now we are done with the process, but keynotes at last that you need to look for, like on qualifiers and what to look for with these talents, right? So this is what I've learned, if I can sum it up like this. So first thing is always make sure they got the results that you want. Especially with creative talents, don't ever have the goal of hiring someone if they offer a better rate and then training them, because of course if they don't have the results that you want to achieve, it's going to take you a lot of time to train them where you want them to be, and it's not worth it. So simply make sure, especially if they are a strategist, they have scaled some channel to certain level where you want to be already. They have the results, they have got the results for someone already. That's the one thing you need to look for with strategist. And then with editors, they have the skill sets, editing quality, designing quality to a point where it just makes sense. It looks good, it's what you want, or it's what your competitors are doing. So if you don't know, if you're not entirely sure on the level of edits you want, what's such the benchmark, always look at your competitors or like leaders in your space. And the next thing that you need to really focus on, this is something a lot of people miss, is a really solid onboarding and training system. Now, usually people have that for their clients. I think that it's also same, it should be same for your team or like employees, people you hire on board. Because this is what sets expectation. Whenever someone is onboarded, whenever someone joins your team, they need to know clearly, what they're responsible for, what they need to do, and your plan, basically. So once, if everything is clarified, if everything is clear to them, then this basically saves you a lot of headache down the line once they start working on your projects. So just simply have a series of training on what they need to know. If it's a video editor, what are the branding guidelines, what are the do's and don'ts, what are the competitors they can look at, what results you're aiming to achieve, things like that. Make everything clear upfront. That is something you need to set up. And the fourth thing that you really need is probationary period or trial period. So since, like I said, if you're working with editors, of course, you can look at their editing skills, the demo that they did for you, and if that is good, then all great. But you don't know about their communication skills, if you don't know about their work ethics, you don't know about their turnaround time, that is something you figure out as you start working with them. So you need to make sure that they're a reliable person. And just because they have good portfolio or just because they proved themselves with their demo, it doesn't mean that they are someone who you can imagine working long term. So those are the pointers on what qualifies people for the roles you're hiring. If I have to break it down by each of the skill sets, so for editors and designers, what I mainly look for is their work quality. Three main things. Like we have this rule, whenever I hire these people, this is what I explain. Hey, this job is not full time. This is not like a typical job. This arrangement is more freelance basis. But three things I want to really focus on between our engagement is: one, work quality. That should be progressively going upwards, not downwards, as we work together. And second thing is prompt turnaround. They complete projects on deadline, due dates that are given to them. And third thing is communication. Of course, they can have great turnaround, work quality, everything, but if the communication is not great, then other areas, other team members will suffer on their work, right? So that's something we don't want to happen. So those are the three main things I have them focus and I look for in the probationary period. And for strategists, what I really look for is their research game and their data understanding capability. So like the main job of a strategist is to find trends, patterns that are working great in your space, elements that are contributing to audience growth for your competitors, stuff like that. So that is something they want to identify, figure out, and how that would fit in with your strategy and how you can do it better. And for scriptwriter, it's of course copywriting skills, like apart from the basics, what makes them a good copywriter. What you need to look for YouTube projects is like how well they understand one, you, second, your audience, your product, everything that has to do with your sort of ecosystem. So that how well they pick up, how well they craft their scripts to fit in this is what determines how good of a scriptwriter they are. So that's what you need to look for with each of these talents. So yeah, with that out of the way, we are pretty much done. Moving on to the last part: tools, systems, and KPIs to measure. First, tools and systems. I like to use Zapier a lot. Pretty much all the tools that I'm using right now are like in some way or the other linked between Zapier. And the way I also like to use this is I look at manual human tasks that are very repetitive, and I see how I can build zaps to automate that as well. For example, one automation that we have built is whenever videos are approved in Frame, it's like review feedback tool. It's automatically uploads that file to Drive, saving time. Like you don't have to download it manually then upload it. Although there are some errors with that automation, but it's still a good automation that you can use to save time and reduce human input. So things like that you can build from Zapier, but specific to content creation and YouTube related tools. So I have divided them into different categories: pre-production, production, and post-production, where they can be used. So we have tools like, again, I have list of these tools here along with their links that you can use to join. Pre-production, there's a tool called subscriber.ai. So what this does is if you feed in your prompts on what your channel is about, who your competitors are, what's your industry, it gives you video ideas, scripts, all the stuff that you can use to come up with content, right? So you don't have to start from blank. This provides something that you can use as a base to like expand on. So that is something you can use subscriber for. And if you do want to use a separate subscription or buy separate subscription, I found that if you train ChatGPT well enough, that does this job, right? So we have tried this, we've been using, but we don't actually use this because we found out how to train ChatGPT to do that so that it does similar job. So moving on to the next software, that is Riverside.fm. This has been an absolute game changer for us and also for our clients. Most of our clients are using this. So this is a recording software. You don't need this if you're just recording one angle through your phone. You don't really need an external software. But when this is going to be useful is if you're recording multiple camera sources or multiple, let's say if you're recording presentation tutorial where you need to record your screen. What this tool does is, it creates separate files for your camera and also for your screen, unlike Loom. So with Loom, like you see, it's the camera here is embedded, the screen is like it's both embedded, so you cannot separate it later after output. But if you're working with editors, this tool provides you separate talk head footage and also screen footage and multiple camera angles. You can add a lot of camera sources or like footage sources to this. And also this can be very useful if you're doing interviews or podcast with your clients, with some guests, where you want to have high quality footages for both of them. With Zoom, what the problem is, it shrinks or like reduces the quality of the footages since it's recorded based on cloud. But this, it records natively, so you can have a better raw footage quality. So it replaces Zoom, it replaces Loom, it replaces StreamYard and a lot of these content recording software, and it's really useful for YouTube purposes and video content purposes, so highly recommended. Envato Elements is something that you can use for stock footages, icons, elements. So usually editors have this subscription themselves. If they don't, you can provide it. I think majority use case for this is also music, background music. Copyright can be a big problem with video content, but this eliminates that as you get licenses to use them. Asana, if you have projects being done at volume, if you want to stay more organized, you can use this. Their free plan to plan, assign, and collaborate on projects with your freelancers or creative skills. Adobe Creative Cloud, that is something you can most of these creative talents have themselves. If they don't, you can provide subscription to them, and also there are a lot of tools in there that you can use for yourself as well. Google Drive to host and manage files without losing quality. CapCut, in case you don't want to use Creative Cloud, in case you want to edit videos yourself without that huge learning curve, CapCut is probably one of the easiest and also most versatile tool for editing out there. So you can simply edit it. If what it takes is quick edits, you want to do it yourself, this is what you can use. Opus, if you want to repurpose the content easily, Opus has its AI features where it identifies best parts and repurpose long form into short form. So that's something you can use that for. And then you can use Submagic to add captions to that. Again, if you have an editor that's already working on your projects, you can have them do that themselves, and you wouldn't really need subscription for these unless they ask. And coming to Frame has been an absolute, again, one of the best tools, probably the tool that we use on a daily basis for review and feedback. When you're working with editors, Of course, there are some revisions you might want, some changes, some optimization that needs to be done. You can do that simply through Google Drive, but you cannot really annotate. So you cannot really mark or leave your comments on a video like you can do on docs or like photos. So that is where Frame comes in. You can mark points, you can leave your feedback. It makes the whole process, review, revisions, feedback process streamlined, and one of my favorite tools. And Metricool, if you're posting shorts or even for long form, if you want to go big into data, track everything effectively, Studio does that. But if you want to track on multiple sources, if you're posting, repurposing shorts, you can use this tool to schedule the shorts on pretty much all the platforms that support shorts. And also you can track data within this centralized view. Metricool has all these features that makes it very easy to repurpose and also track data. Finally, it's vidIQ. That is something you can use to make it easy for you to write tags, description, title. So it has this amazing AI feature that understands the content, provides suggestions based on that. So it's a very useful tool. Highly recommended, all of this. And also vidIQ, you can use this in pre-production as well. It's not just to write tags, it's not just for post-production, it's also something you can use to research ideas. They have their AI feature, which is like improving a lot day by day, that you can use to pretty much optimize, find out video topics that are high potential, right? So those are the tools that I use, highly recommended. Of course, you don't have to get all of them. You can get things as and when the need comes up, but yeah, that's the whole library. Yeah, I think we pretty much covered everything, and final part left is measuring results. So what I have done is broken it down again based on each individual talent. So with strategists and managers, you want to keep them accountable for numbers and growth. That's how you measure their results, not their daily output. Of course, how the videos are performing, the amount of views it's getting, how many leads converted from those views, what's the rate of growth you're seeing every single week, month. They are responsible to also report this for you. So that is something they're responsible, or that's how you measure their results. And then for editors and designers, of course, their quality of works is what you want to consider. How much you are required to give them inputs. It's also something you can measure, because the more inputs they need, if they're making more errors, things that are like obvious, that is of course something you can keep eye on. But apart from that, you can have incentives in place for them for performance. If the videos perform good, and if the retention is better compared to what it was like 2-3 months ago, that's also something you can measure and provide incentives based on. But typically it's going to be how the quality of their work, how well they're collaborating with other skill sets as well. And finally, something you can have in place is, this is something we have on board, daily reports. They get an automation again through Zapier to fill out a form on what they did today, what are their plans for tomorrow, what are the roadblocks they're hitting, things like that. And through that we can understand how they're doing and what they can do better. And weekly calls is something you can set. You can connect on a daily basis, but that could be too much. Weekly sounds like pretty good if you're just getting started, but as you grow, if you need more regular calls, you can do it bi-weekly or daily. So that's pretty much it. I think we covered everything that you have to know about building a really solid content team. Of course, there are parts that could be very in-depth I didn't go over. For example, like with video editors, there are short form editors, there are long form editors. The requirements for them are different, and there are much more that is going into the hiring process. For example, with the screening part, and also there are emails that you can send to ensure that you get high response rate, stuff like that, for application approval emails, stuff like that are more in depth, which I'm happy to answer. If you're looking to learn more about this, you can book a call below. And also, if you don't want to do it yourself, although you have a shortcut now, you still have a few things to learn. If you don't want to do this yourself, avoid the trial and error, save time, save money, you can have us do that. We already have a really solid system and team built for this. You can get far better output, far better results, probably for a better rate, better pricing than this. If you're interested to learn more about that, you can book a call below, have a chat with me, if you consider. But if that doesn't work out, of course, you can consider that as a free consultation, whatever you book. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have in depth in that call. So you can take that as a free consultation as well. So it's a win-win anyway, even if you decide to work with us, or even if you decide to take the knowledge and build this team out for yourself. Appreciate you watching this video so far, and any questions you might have regarding this, happy to answer below. But I might have a video that is coming up on how to use these tools, like top tools that you can use to automate your workflow by maybe 70%. So you can find that video as well.